Hi, everyone. My name is Pam Hoadley. I'm a talent brand consultant supporting global accounts here in Chicago for LinkedIn. And so today we're going to look at how to use content to tackle gender diversity. So the idea for today is really to provide you with creative ideas to inspire you to develop great content for your own organizations and get an understanding of what works on LinkedIn from a content perspective. And also I'm going to give you kind of a fun example of what does not work as well. So like I said, I'll show you some examples of how companies are already doing this and using content to attract female candidates so that you really don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can hopefully get inspired by some of these examples that we're sharing today. And like Becca said, if you have questions, we'll be taking those questions at the end, and we will be sharing this deck and recording, so you've got it as a reference as you go forward in developing your own content. Okay, so as far as the agenda for today, there are three major things that I want to cover. First is the gender diversity imperative. You know, why is this so important to so many organizations today? And second, how do you get your stories out there? How can you use content for storytelling to really share your culture and the talent brand story that you want to tell to female candidates specifically? And then third, the majority of our time today will be, I'll be sharing examples of how to showcase your company as a gender diverse employer. So again, for those just joining, we will be sharing this afterwards, so you'll have this as a reference if you want to use this to get inspired. So first, the gender diversity imperative. So when you think about companies like I'm showing here on the screen, Google, Intel, PwC, Facebook, LinkedIn even, you know, it's hard to find an organization these days that doesn't have gender diversity high up on the agenda, and for good reason. It's a huge challenge, and what we've been seeing is that companies like these, particularly in tech, are starting to publish their data to really hold themselves accountable and show how important this is for them as an initiative. So it's not just tech companies, right? In some industries like mining and oil and gas, construction, things like that, it's a very male-dominated industry in oil and gas and those types of industries. So attracting females is a huge challenge for them. So you have to get really creative, and you have to also be very consistent with your messaging if you want to create an inclusive environment for females. So I do want to focus on tech, though, for a second. You know, it's a very prominent and well documented issue from a tech perspective. So in 1985, the percentage of computer science students who were women was 35%. And now in 2016, it's 18%. So we're actually going backwards at a time when it's critical for companies, again, especially in tech, they should be moving forward for the successes of their business when it comes to gender diversity. So it's even more important now than ever to be sure, if you're a tech company, that you are looked upon and considered to be a very gender-inclusive organization, because the computer science students who are female, and just generally females in tech overall that are out there, they're numbered. So you want to make sure that they know all about what it's like to work at your company in tech as a female, and really make sure that your opportunities stand out for you, for in front of them, and that your talent brand is really shining. So I'm going to read this one. The diversity of people in a corporation promotes innovation because it achieves greater diversity of ideas. There's a link between diversity and innovation that's not theoretical, it's real. I mean, there really isn't a lot of debate these days when it comes to a diverse workforce delivering better business results. And, you know, there are countless studies. If you just Google, you can find there's a lot of research showing and proving the value of a gender diverse workforce. So in this particular example, this is a McKinsey analysis that was published last year that shows that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity are 15% more likely to outperform financially than companies in the bottom quartile for gender diversity. And that's a huge advantage. So like I said, if you want to get more information and other studies and things like this, just Google gender diversity, and there's a lot out there that you can find. So with the gender diversity imperative at the top of everyone's mind, I want to look at how you can get your company stories out there. So think about your digital channels and your social networks as opportunities to build relationships at scale with this audience. And really your content is what's going to get your story out there in front of these female audiences. So there are typically two types of content. We like to think about this in two different ways. So the first is your hub content. This is what people see when they come to you. You know, when they're researching your company, they want to learn more about what it's like to work there. And a few years ago, Google coined the term zero moment of truth. And if you think back to P&G about 100 years ago, they actually coined the term moment of truth. And this was when you push people down your funnel and you marketed to them and advertised to them. The moment of truth is when they actually come to pay. You know, will they open their wallets and actually make a transaction? So now in the modern version of that, Google coined this phrase, zero moment of truth. And this is in those little micro moments when people want to find out about you, how well are you representing your brand? And are you putting your best foot forward and representing yourself as a gender diverse organization? That's going to be really, really important. So the other main type of content is the kind that is served in the newsfeed. This is content that you're serving to people in a more targeted way. So this is different than the hub content in that it's more like a magnet. It pulls people back to your hub content to learn more about what it's like to work in your organization. So we want to talk about both of these types of content, and I want to start with some examples of hub content and how you can showcase females using your hub content. So if we look at some of the hub content on LinkedIn, in this example from EY, they actually changed their banner, their header banner on their company page and also on their corporate website to represent International Women's Day. And they used the hashtag Pledge for Parity, which was this year's International Women's Day theme. So I like this example because they changed this for that specific initiative. It's something different now. You can change your image on your company page or any of the content on your company page anytime you want. It doesn't cost you anything to be very representative of the, you know, any type of female-driven initiatives that you want to showcase there. And you can do the same thing on your careers page on LinkedIn, and it's even better if you have a premium careers page package that offers multiple versions of that page, so you have more opportunities to showcase that. And these are two examples of career pages on LinkedIn. So on the left, Cisco is talking about gender diversity in this video, and they also added some relevant links on the left-hand side, which is a little bit down their page, to learn more about gender diversity at their organization. But then you have HSBC, which they put the diversity messaging just front and center. It's right up there. So anyone who visits that page, they're going to see that right away. So if gender diversity is a priority for your company, you know, I'd recommend that you put it right out there. Depending on what your organization supports, there's definitely different ways that you can use your careers pages to illustrate that. And on careers pages, don't forget, a little ways down the page, you have the opportunity to showcase testimonials. So you could provide an employee testimonial on one or many of those pages, showcasing one of your rock star females at your company. And another type of hub content is your employees' profiles. So this is really valuable real estate, and it's a great way for employees to showcase gender diversity that they're seeing within your organization too. So here in this example of Sandy Carter, she is an executive at IBM she's included a great summary that illustrates how passionate she is about what she does. You can see that there on the left. And she's also added some multimedia examples of the work that she cares about. So if you're looking to attract female candidates into IT, for example, like IBM is, positive personal branding, like Sandy does, can really add a lot of credibility in the messaging, right? So imagine if, in terms of recruiting, if you sent profiles like Sandy's to prospective candidates when they're coming in for an interview, they'll see that, you know, there's real opportunity for females within the organization, and they could see where they're potentially where their own careers could go. So get your employees involved. The #1 activity on LinkedIn is still members viewing other members' profiles. So this is a great opportunity for your employees to really reflect the gender diversity that your company offers. We all know that content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants. So this is one of my favorite quotes because it's clever, but it's also true, right? Your content strategy is a really critical component of your hiring strategy. So if you don't have a content strategy in place today, I would recommend that right after this webinar. I mean, it should be something that you address right away, because the work that you put in, and it doesn't have to be really difficult, and it doesn't have to cost a lot or anything. You know, that if you put the work in up front, you're going to see, you know, it's going to pay you back tenfold in the end, especially when it comes to hiring. So we want to talk about the distribution of your content. So content in the form of status updates to your company followers or sponsored updates to non-followers is a great way, it's a very easy way to tell your story and illustrate it in the form of images and video. So video on LinkedIn, by the way, gets about 100% higher engagement than static content. So you can use that to showcase, you know, the really inclusive culture of your organization, and maybe do a day in the life of a female executive, or talk about career paths, or how other females within the organization have risen up the ladder, or what that career path looks like. It's a really easy and realistic way for you to showcase what the opportunities really are at your organization. And when you use your company newsfeed to distribute content, you're not just sharing your message with your followers, but you get the added benefit of social actions for distributing your message beyond your followers, right? So anytime someone likes or shares or comments on your content from your newsfeed, that's going to reach well beyond your company followers, and doesn't cost you anything, you know, to push out status updates to your followers. And I'm sure many of you know, company status updates go out to your company followers, and your company may have 1,000 followers or 1 million. Either way, you can get your story out to those people really easily using, you know, a content, and have a really robust content strategy. But LinkedIn has over 433 million members, most of whom are not following your company. So in order to get your content in front of members who are not currently following your company, you can sponsor that content and select members from the entire LinkedIn network, females included, who you want to reach in the newsfeed, who you're not currently today. So for example, you can reach an audience of females in specific industries and functions where you're hiring who are not currently following. So it's a great way to expand that reach. And when you expand that reach, you can get really pretty deep into the targeting, right? LinkedIn's targeting is really robust. So you can see here, when you're posting out to your company followers, you can see where the company updates can be targeted. And when you sponsor that content, you can go a lot further, right? So if you need to hire female engineers in the Bay Area in Seattle, for example, or female salespeople in Chicago, whatever it might be, you can sponsor updates to tell your diversity story to these target audiences who, you know, showcase what your company has to offer from a diversity perspective. And remember that those people will be getting this content served to them on both desktop and mobile, which is critical. So why does this matter for recruiting teams? Why is this important? Because content is proven to drive bottom line hiring results. You know, we talked about content being a critical part of your strategy. We do have data to show that it really does drive greater hiring results. So companies who post at least one status update per week on LinkedIn will get 40% more views to their LinkedIn job postings and 25% more apply clicks. So with one single post per week, you can get 40% more views and 25% more apply clicks to your jobs. I mean, think about that. That is so minimal. One update per week, anybody can do that. So this in and of itself, I think, is a great example of ROI for your investment in jobs, and content doesn't have to cost anything. So Like I said before, I think if you don't have a content strategy in place, or if you do, let's look at ways that you can optimize that strategy for greater ROI. So let's look at some creative ideas for gender diversity messaging for your own companies. And you really don't need to start from scratch. The purpose of this is to give you some ideas of what some other companies are doing today. And I want to start with just a little bit of fun, how not to promote gender diversity. So Concern Worldwide is a fantastic global humanitarian organization, but they kind of missed the mark here. They say any press is good press, and in this case, I definitely don't think that's the case. I think they probably did more harm than good with this one. You can see some of the comments that people made on this post. Definitely, probably not what they were hoping for. And as far as your own posts go, comments on your posts will always be a good litmus test to see how your content is resonating with your audiences. That's something that can help you optimize your strategy, but this company clearly missed the boat with this one. So idea 1, and we have 8. Encourage your leaders to share their opinions. And this also means that your leaders, if they are sharing content, this tells people who are engaging with your company that you do have an inclusive culture, and it illustrates that your leaders will be driving this forward within the organization. So if your CEO can write a long-form post and publish it to their profile, it's really going to go a long way, you know, again, because it's going to represent what is actually happening within your company, and it's going to be easier for you to recruit females when your company CEO is behind it. And then here's Mike Smith. He has posted a lot on LinkedIn. He's an influencer. He's written a lot of posts about gender diversity. So this is a great one. I recommend that you look him up, and you can get a lot of great content examples that you can share with your own leaders at your own company, not only to show them what kind of content they could be posting, but the fact that other executives are doing that exact thing. So the last 2 examples I showed you were white male CEOs, but if you've got a female CEO or female leaders in place, definitely use them to promote gender diversity and inclusion at your own company. In this example, it shows you can share industry stats around gender diversity as part of your own company page content. You don't actually have to write it yourself. You know, even if it's not coming directly from a leader at your company, the quote or the stat, you're still showing how important the issue is to your company, and you can stay top of mind for anyone who's engaging with this content. And another couple of examples here. This is, on the top left, is from Fidelity Investments. They ran a whole series of posts. If you have a leader who has published a post, you know, push it out on your company page to your followers, and encourage your employees to get involved also, and push it out to their networks as well. Okay, idea 2. Create employee spotlights. This is really about highlighting the careers and activities of your female employees. People, I think this rings true for me, you know, people don't trust corporate spokespeople as much as they trust people who are actually in the roles that they're interested in, people that they can actually relate to. So here's some examples. ANZ Bank is highlighting the passion of 3 of their agribusiness bankers, and ABB describes the role of a female engineer on the Solar Impulse team. So really cool work that they're doing. The recommendation here would be to highlight females and their accomplishments at your own company to inspire other women who might be engaging with that content. And here's a great example by Stryker. Stryker's a medical device company. This one is highlighting a female employee who is also a member of the National Guard, and she was deployed in Iraq for 15 months. I mean, this is such a great post. This got tons of engagement. It's a wonderful post for so many reasons. And here on the bottom, you can see IBM put a spotlight on a woman who's their most prolific female inventor. So really, really cool stuff that these companies are sharing. This illustrates how you can spotlight some of your own rock star female employees, again, to inspire other women to want to come and work for your company. And I love this example. This one is a sponsored post by Comcast where they're highlighting the really cool and exciting work that Leslie is doing as a female software engineer. So this is a sponsored post. So this would go out to non-company followers and give them the opportunity to follow the company with one click. And then once they become a follower, they would stay inspired and informed when they get additional updates in their newsfeed as a follower about females at Comcast. Okay, so idea 3, highlight company cultures and initiatives. Talk about what your company does to support a gender-inclusive environment. And these examples, in the top left, you've got Intel, and this shows a woman who is sharing her feelings about an awesome new leave program that the company is offering. It's additional time above and beyond their mat leave policy, so she's very excited about that. It's a great story to tell. And then in the middle here, Stryker is talking about the culture of collaboration, and they put a spotlight on this woman, Liz, who's working in their robotics division. So really cool stuff, really cool and interesting work that she's doing. And then Walmart e-commerce, this is pretty cool too. They highlighted a new label that supports women-owned businesses, and they posted a story about how 90% of their female customers would go out of their way to purchase products for women. So relevant content that they're using in a kind of interesting and unique way. So in this example from MOL Group, which is a Hungarian oil and gas company, this highlights how their GROW, their G-R-O-W-W graduate program, is helping young females launch successful careers in the oil and gas industry, which again is primarily a male-dominated industry. So for them, they're starting at the graduate level to get females to start thinking about careers in oil and gas early on in their careers. Okay, idea 4, join the debate. Talk about women's career challenges. So talk about the actual challenges that women face. Be part of the conversation and talk about the actions that your company is taking so people really know that you're taking this initiative seriously. This first post from Walmart e-commerce talks about their participation and sponsorship of Grace Hopper, which is a Women in Tech conference. And this post, I think, is interesting because it highlights another trend that we're seeing on LinkedIn in 2016, and that is real-time content or near real-time content. This image was probably snapped with an iPhone taken during the event, and then someone posted it in basically near real time, which really brings a freshness to the post and relevancy as well. And then Fidelity shares secrets on how to become a powerful woman during Women's History Month. So anytime you can align your content with something like Women's History Month or International Women's Day, something like that, that's going to go a long way and make a big impact. And with this campaign from EY, they put a lot of work into this. It was very well thought through. They talk about why gender diversity is important. So they created some really interesting infographics. It's very, it's very engaging. It draws your eye, and it's got some very interesting data in it. So again, it's very well thought through. They used a lot of content that they had and created an ongoing campaign so that instead of sharing just one update, they've got a series that really start to engage people and tell that story about gender diversity at their company. And here's an example from Arrow Group, which is a recruitment agency, saying, the 8th of March, Happy Women's Day. So this, for them, is very illustrative and fun and really represents their company. They're using their own employees here, so don't forget to, anytime you can, use your own employees to really, truly represent your culture. It doesn't have to be fun and cute like this. If you're in a highly regulated industry, that's a lot more formal. Do what's right for your company and make it, again, very truly representative of what the culture and organization is like. Okay, idea 5. So share achievements and awards. This is really all about shouting about your successes and bragging about the awards that you've won. Talk about the different awards that you've won, and really be proud of those, because we know that those are not easy to win. So in these examples, we have Zendesk, which is a software company, and they're talking about being one of the companies with the highest percentage of female techies. And when we think about what I shared earlier, you know, females in tech, this is not an easy achievement. So this is something that they definitely should be bragging about. And then Stryker, again, they're celebrating being a top 50 employer by Women Engineer magazine. And Stryker is one of my personal clients, and I have to give them a shout out because they are really dedicated and committed to gender diversity. I've seen this within their organization for years, and I think they're really nailing it with content and the media that they're running. So one more example here from Comcast, and this is showing, you know, they're really proud of these two executives who were named Wonder Women. And my thought about this, they may have done this, I'm not sure, but it would be great to see these female leaders post this to their own profiles to amplify and personalize the message even more. They may have done that, I'm not sure, but I think that's a really important component of this. Okay, idea 6, get your energy behind a hashtag. So as far as hashtags go, you can create your own hashtag, or you can jump on board with a hashtag that already exists and has momentum behind it, which I would highly recommend if you can do that. In this example, you can see Atkins, which is an engineering firm based in the UK. They leveraged the hashtag Not Just for Boys, and that particular hashtag was a campaign that was all about choice, and it was mostly engineering focused, but it was intended to be supporting and inspiring women to make decisions that are right for them. So using a hashtag like this is really going to help you to kind of get ahead because it's a conversation that's already happening. And here, EY, like we saw a few minutes ago, this campaign for International Women's Day in 2016, the campaign theme here was Pledge for Parity. So they also did a nice job of jumping on board with the hashtag that already existed to expand their reach. Okay, idea 7, use video. Video, video, video. I cannot stress the importance of video enough, and I probably should have led with this one. People love to watch videos. I mean, when you think about going into work or your commute home, you don't see people anymore. You see their heads like looking down at their phones. People are constantly just scrolling through news feeds. So one of the things that is keeping them the most engaged is videos. And like I said before, video on LinkedIn gets 100% higher engagement than static messages on LinkedIn. And it's a great way to tell your story. So there's a big opportunity here if you're not using video to certainly go that route. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be a professionally developed video if you don't want it to be. More and more often, people are using iPhones or, you know, mobile devices to take videos on the fly, and sometimes that is even more authentic and more appreciated by people who consume that content. So here in this example from Commonwealth Bank, they are using a video to show why gender diversity is so important to them and how it's created at their company. And then here's an example of a video from IBM that features a day in the life of a technology innovation program manager. I love this. I love their whole campaign, and I have to give another shout out for IBM. They're another one of my clients. I think they've done a great job with the content, especially the video that they've been sharing. They've done a great job of really personalizing and showcasing what it's like to be a woman in tech at IBM. And the thing that I want to point out here about this video that for IBM is that it's just over 2 minutes long, which is a really good length for a video like this. You know, it gives you time to tell your story in a very illustrative way. But by contrast, if you look at the one on the right-hand side from Expedia, that video is over 7 minutes long. Not that that's a bad thing, because this is it's a wonderful video. It's very well thought out, got a lot of great content in there. But the recommendation here would be to keep your audience in mind when you're thinking about feed content, because in general, you're going to want to keep the video in the feed shorter than longer. You know, if you think about just, you know, you're probably going to be, like I said, just scrolling through. If you're on a mobile device, even if you're not, if you're scrolling through a news feed, you're not probably going to be as likely to stick around for 7 minutes to watch a whole video as you would be something that's a little bit shorter and more snackable. So as a rule, I would reserve the longer, more in-depth videos for your hub content, maybe on your LinkedIn career page or company page, and use a little bit of a shorter video to get people to that hub content. Okay, idea 8, our final idea. Encourage and inspire your employees to share content with their networks. So these are some examples of content that employees at E&Y and CBRE were sharing with their network. So in the EY example, Erica shared some of that campaign content we saw earlier that EY was pushing out on the company page, and now Erica's amplifying the message by sharing it with her own network. And on the right-hand side, you can see from Lisa Cooper at CBRE, Lisa shared a post by Texas Property Group that that was an event that the two of them shared. So this is an example, again, of that real-time or near real-time gender diversity-focused content being amplified to multiple networks. So the real takeaway here that I want to share is you need to make content readily available and easily shareable by your employees. So, you know, whether it's an email from your executives or your comms director out to your employees with links and suggested content and copy that they share, or you might use a portal or a tool like LinkedIn Elevate, or there are lots of tools out there where employees can access content that's ready to be shared with their networks. They don't have to put any thought into it. It's already been vetted, and it's a great way just to amplify your messaging. So make it easy, make it shareable, and keep it coming. So just want to recap on those 8 ideas that we have just walked through. Again, we are going to be sharing this deck out, so you can use this information as a reference as you need it. I would definitely encourage you to reach out to your relationship manager at LinkedIn or your solutions consultant. Set up time to review your content strategy. You know, if you have one in place, great, review it, or, you know, try to optimize it with your LinkedIn team. If you don't have one, your LinkedIn team can also help you get started. We've got all kinds of tools and playbooks and things that will help you get started and maintain a content strategy. Keep in mind, too, one of the most important parts of this, it's really going to make an impact on your bottom line and your hiring, and it doesn't have to cost a thing. And one last tip that I want to give you is use data to optimize your content strategy. LinkedIn is a wealth of information, and we collect data all the time. So if any of you are familiar with LinkedIn's Talent Driver Survey, this is a survey that we run once a year. It's a perception survey. It's the world's largest professional survey, so the data is really relevant. When you have a brainstorm with your relationship manager or solutions consultant, this is some of the data that I would highly recommend that you employ, because as an example, I pulled information showing for all salespeople, both male and female in the U.S., as an example. We can cut this data however you want. These are the things that are most important to salespeople, both male and female, in the U.S. And by contrast, if I just do a cut of data for females only in sales in the U.S., you can see there's some similarities, but there are also some really distinct differences. And one of the ones I'll call out is flexible work arrangement. So if I look at all sales in the U.S., the one before, both male and female, you can see that flexible work arrangements is down at the bottom. I think it's like number 12. And then if I go back and look at just females versus male and female, you see that flexible work arrangements is up at the top at number 5. So to females, that is something that is a lot more important to them, and that tells you that that's some content that you can use in your content strategy. Talk about flexible work arrangements that your company offers. You know, this kind of information is really going to kind of be a silver bullet for you. A lot of companies are not using this data to really understand what's most important to females. If you do use this, it's going to make your content a lot more relevant, a lot more, you'll see a lot more engagement, and really, ultimately, you'll be adding more to your ROI in the bottom line. So, down here, there we go. So in terms of key takeaways, these are the top 3 things that I would love for you to think about and take with you as a result of watching this webinar. Definitely, gender diverse workforce helps deliver better business results. Getting your story out there in front of your key targeted female audiences on a regular basis is going to be a critical part of a diversity hiring strategy and really will add to your bottom line. And then keep in mind, too, you don't have to start from scratch. Use the ideas that you saw here today to create your own, and just build from there. So last thought would be, remember to engage with your LinkedIn talent team, your relationship manager, your solutions consultant, and really optimize your strategy that you have, or create a new one if you don't have one today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pam, for that great presentation. Quick reminder before we jump into Q&A. When you exit today's webcast, you will get a SurveyMonkey link to provide feedback on the webcast. Just a call out, we would love your feedback and would appreciate if you took a couple minutes to fill that out. We do these webcasts on a monthly basis and would love your thoughts so that we can continue to improve them moving forward. And then with that, we will jump into some Q&A. So we got some great questions from the audience. And so to start, Pam, would love your thoughts on, someone asked a question around if you have any tips on how to encourage or incentivize employees to share content on LinkedIn.
That's a great question. I think that would vary by company. Not sure what you mean by incentivize, but one of the things that I would recommend is simply to make it easy for them to share, to access content and to share it. So there are tools out there, LinkedIn Elevate, there are other tools from other vendors that can provide this kind of opportunity to make it easily shareable. That really is the key.
And something that I do too, for those of you on the line that maybe don't have access to a tool like that or want something to complement it, something that I do for our team is if I want them to help do things like promote webcasts or other initiatives that are going on, is I'll send a quick email out to our team with a little blurb for all of the social media spaces we might want them to use. So I have a separate one for LinkedIn, a separate one for Twitter, for Facebook, other places they might want to share. And then I'll include that, sentence or that blurb along with the link, and then they can just easily copy and paste it and share it right away. So it takes any work off of their plate other than the copy and paste, and makes it very easy for them.
And in terms of incentivizing people, I guess you could financially incentivize them, but I don't see that happening very often. But what you could do is really share some of the results from a hiring perspective, how you're sharing, you can measure that, how that's really impacting your bottom line, as well as some of the hires that you're making as a result of it.
Yep. I recommend, too, if you have a chance, checking out, there was a blog post on the LinkedIn Talent blog at talent.linkedin.com/blog about Adobe. Adobe has a really great social sort of ambassadorship program they launched last year, and there's a great blog post about it. So if you search for Adobe on our Talent blog, you should be able to read about that. Great success story. Wonderful. Another question for you, Pam. How do you push posts from our leaders onto our company page?
That's a great question. Anyone who is an administrator of your company page will be able to push content out to your followers. So if you are an administrator, you should have access to do that today. If you are not an administrator, you can engage with your LinkedIn team, and they can help you understand who you already have as an administrator, or they can figure out, they can work with your team to get you added as an admin yourself. One thing about that, companies generally don't open up the posting process to employees simply, to maintain brand consistency and control of the content, but certainly you can, as an admin, post content to your followers and maybe create something internally where anyone who wants to contribute content can enter that into a portal or even a spreadsheet. Keep it simple so that the admin can vet that content and post it out to your followers as appropriate.
Great. Someone on the line asked how to access the survey data, so the EVP survey about what people care about.
Yep, great question. This is available to everyone and anyone. So this is available to you through your LinkedIn team, your relationship manager. Make a point to schedule time with them, not only to brainstorm on content strategy, but ask them to share the EVP talent driver data with them. Some clients, some companies out there will have the opportunity to have talent driver reports, which actually compares your company to peers. It really just depends on how many people in that survey responded specifically to your company. But either way, ask your relationship manager, and they can give you that EVP data so that you can create a strategy specific to females.
Wonderful. Someone had a question on the line, and I can probably take this one. Does the stat for engagement with video on LinkedIn, is it because of the autoplay feature? So some of you may have seen recently a shift in your newsfeed where video content starts autoplaying. That's really new. The stat actually is from before that. So no, that engagement stat and the fact that people are much more engaged with video is totally due to the fact that video is a more engaging piece of content and does not have to do with the autoplay feature. So good question there. Another question, how do you recommend getting your CEO and execs involved? We saw a lot of examples of CEOs and executives that kind of posted about this and were involved in the conversation. How do you recommend getting them involved if they're not already?
Sure, great question. So I think depending on the size of your company and the access that you have to your CEO, in a very small company, you may have direct access to your CEO. I would simply ask and show them some of the stats and pull some content from the web that talks about the value of gender diversity to the bottom line. If you don't have a direct line to your CEO, typically I would recommend to go to your direct report and have a conversation with them and figure out a way that you can get that message up to the top. And if you can't get directly to the CEO, start with some of your female leaders in the org that you work with yourself or that you work for yourself. You know, there's always going to be somebody who's interested in sharing some content, even if it's not at the top, the very top. But you could start at, you know, with an executive or a senior member of your own team and go from there.
Great, and we probably have time for one last question. What if your organization isn't very gender diverse and maybe you do have an issue with that and it's something that you're working on? How can you promote gender diversity through content, through your marketing efforts, while still maintaining authenticity?
Sure, that's a great question, and that's also something that I would recommend that you work with your relationship manager to create a strategy. That's a very interesting and kind of complex question. You do certainly want to be authentic, but if it's something that your company is working towards, you know, talk about the reasons why. There's always some kind of content that if you can't create it yourself, if it's not something that exists today, it does exist out there somewhere else. Use other content and use other stories as an example of what you hope to accomplish within your own organization.
Wonderful. Well, that wraps it up for today. If we didn't have a chance to get to your question, please feel free to reach out to your LinkedIn relationship manager or your talent brand consultant. They'd be happy to help you and continue the conversation around diversity at your organization and your strategy there. And again, thank you all for joining. If you have a minute to fill out the survey, we would, again, greatly appreciate it. And we hope to see you on future webcasts. So thank you very much.